Chapter 9. The pregnancy seemed to just go on without any effort on Melody's part. She and Richard got into some kind of routine. Even though she was reading her Bible again, Melody still kept up that big wall around her heart. Whenever her thoughts turned to the abortion she had had, she forced herself to stop thinking about it. Richard was doing something similar. The doctor had warned him about something called post-abortion stress syndrome, but he chose to forget about it. He too had put up a big wall around his emotions and would not allow himself to think about how his wife had hurt him, especially that she had been unfaithful to him, or that he couldn't ever trust her again. If he found himself starting to entertain thoughts about it, he would force his mind to think about flying airplanes or about his motorcycle or anything else. Joseph and David and the other angels came and went with various missions concerning the marriage of this young couple. They tried vainly to continue the breakthrough of that initial moment when Melody had heard the Father's voice and given her life back into his control. But those stubborn walls that they had built up were there of their own choice. Father would not break them down because he had given them each their own free wills. Finally the day came. Melody went to the town aquatic center to attend her usual swim class. She knew it was her due date, but there was no sign of labor. She just couldn't stand the weight of her huge belly on this warm March day. "I'm going to go and get into that nice, cool pool water," she told herself, "and get this heaviness off my sore feet." "Hey, what are you doing here?" Sandy called as she came waddling out to the pool edge. "Aren't you almost due with that baby?" "Yes, I am. I just have to get it out of me. I'm just too hot these days," Melody complained. Taking a hold of the end of the tonga rope which hung over the pool, Melody hung on with her bloated body for dear life and let go the side. However, she couldn't hold on, and her body just slipped down and off until she splashed into the pool water. "Well, that wasn't very graceful," she grimaced as her legs seemed to tear open beneath her weight. She continued dog-paddling around until she got hold of a floaty to help hold her up. It was fun to hold on to it and do the water exercises the instructor was demonstrating. Upbeat disco music was being pumped from a huge ghetto blaster to encourage the women to keep at it. "Arms up, arms down, arms up, arms down. Now lift your shoulders and shrug like this," the firm young swim instructor was demonstrating on the side of the pool. Her hot pink swimsuit glistened in the sunlight streaming in through the solar windows of the aquatic center. "Beep!" she blew her whistle sharply. "You there, Melody, what's the matter?" The instructor had noticed that Melody was losing control of her positions. Something was wrong. "I have pain," Melody gasped in response as another sharp contraction hit her like a baseball in her uterus. The instructor dove into the water and swam up to Melody with a few powerful strokes. "Now relax, Melody. Put your arm around my neck and I'll help you out of the water." All the other women had stopped their exercises and were whispering their concern. "It's her due date," Sandy explained. "She shouldn't be here. She should be in the hospital." The two of them helped Melody to the change room, where she fought the contractions as she dried off and dressed and made her way out to the car. "I'll drive you," Sandy offered. "I think you should get straight to the hospital." No, it isn't that bad yet," Melody remembered the prenatal classes. Her pains were too far apart. Besides, her membranes hadn't ruptured yet. So Sandy reluctantly took her home to the apartment. "Promise me you'll call Richard right away, you hear?" Sandy insisted. "I'll check back with you in a half hour." Melody agreed as she made her way into the apartment. She looked at the 2 chicken breasts marinating in a sweet and sour sauce. She had planned to cook their first spring barbecue today. The coals were already waiting on the grill. "I'm just going to light it and get the meat cooking anyway," Melody told herself. She put the fowl on the hot grill, wrapped the potatoes in foil to bake in the oven. Then, as she bent down to get another pan, she felt something wet between her legs. "Oh dear, this must be it! My membranes have ruptured," she exclaimed to herself. She looked down to see a lake of clear fluid forming a puddle on the floor. Making it to the bathroom, she grabbed a bath towel and put it between her legs. Then she waddled to the telephone to call her husband. "Ring! Ring! Come on, Richard, answer!" Finally, the phone was picked up. "Hello, Richard, I'm in labor," Melody gasped alongside another contraction. "You are? I'll be right there. Hang in there, honey." Richard threw down the receiver and it clattered onto the hard surface of the reception desk at West Wing's charter service. He flew out the door. "Hey, where are you going?" his boss called after him. "My wife is in labor," he screamed in response and sped off in his car. The dusty black Javelin careened down the winding road of the mountain towards Western Lake. Before he knew it, he was slamming the brakes in front of their apartment. A cloud of dust was trying to catch up with him. He opened the front door and saw Melody lying on the living room couch, with a look of pure agony etched across her features. Richard hurried over to help her up. "Let's get you to the car, honey," he said gently. "Here, let me help you." They managed to get her and her enormous belly into the front seat. Not bothering to buckle up for the short ride to the next parking lot, they also didn't notice the chicken breasts were turning black on the barbecue grill. Once inside the hospital, Melody was whisked off to the labor room. The nurse on duty was her friend Christy, the wife of fellow pilot Bob Barnes. She helped Melody don a baby blue printed gown. She began to hook Melody up to a fetal belt monitor. "Why do I have to wear this?" Melody complained. "We just want to see how your baby is doing under the pressure of labor and take a few readings. It's not so bad," Christy responded reassuringly. Just then a big contraction began to move like a wave from the bottom of Melody's pelvis and steadily up her monstrous belly. "Ouch! Ouch! That hurts!" She clenched her teeth together, resisting the pain. "Now just breathe. Relax, Melody. Remember your Lamaze techniques," Nurse Christy coached. Richard's eyes were big as brown saucers. He began to breathe in and out like they had been taught in prenatal class. He looked directly into Melody's eyes. She locked hers on his and grasped his hand in a lion grip. A deep breath in the nose, then deeply exhale through the mouth slowly. Then, as the contraction pain got stronger, changed to ah, 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 exhaling on the ah. Use your imagination and imagine your contraction is like walking up a flight of stairs and getting gradually out of breath. Then, when the pain is unbearable at the top of the stairs, spit out the word hot without the H. So, ot, ot, ot. Now reverse your steps and go back slowly down the stairs in your imagination with the contraction. And finish with a deep cleansing breath. Christy was watching her watch and timing the contraction. "That was about 90 seconds long. You say they are coming every 10 minutes or so?" Melody nodded. "Okay, just keep doing your Lamaze breathing with every contraction. I'll get you some ice chips to moisten your mouth." Dr. Belmont walked into their room, wearing a white coat with the collar of his plaid shirt underneath poking out the top. "So, young lady, how are things going?" He sounded friendly. He was holding the end of the paper tape, which rolled steadily off the monitor machine, and frowned. I think I should give you a dilation check. These contraction peaks are quite high." Melody hated those. "Now lie back and relax." The doctor was donning his latex gloves. Richard had to look away. was just too personal. Inside his mother's womb, baby Christian felt like he was being crushed from all sides. Once, many months ago, the swimming pool had seemed so spacious. He could move and swim and kick, but now there was no room left. His fully developed preborn body had filled the entire womb. His head tipped down, his knees were bent, and with his legs curled up underneath him, he moved slowly downward. It seemed as though every little while he was being pushed against a tiny opening by a powerful force not his own. There was no escaping it. Things had progressed all night. Melody had been on an IV and was being given the drug Demerol in a needle for the pain every few hours. Finally, after 20 hours of labor, she was so tired and worn out, she just didn't feel she could bear even one more contraction. "I can't take this any more," she cried. "If I get even one more contraction, I'll scream." And with that, of course, the next contraction hit. "Just look into my face and blow." Richard held his face right up to within an inch of hers, and they both puffed up their cheeks like a couple of blowfish and blew. If they could have seen how comical they looked. They were in full-blown, no pun intended, transitional labor. Melody went to the bathroom. She felt like she had to throw up from one end while the opposite wanted to break in two. She was at the end of her rope. "Nurse, my wife can't take this pain any more. She wants to have an epidural," Richard said in desperation. Krista was not on shift anymore. In fact, they had gone through 3 shifts of nurses since Melody's labor began. They came and went, and still no baby. "I'll call the doctor," the nurse assured him. Soon the doctor was sitting Melody up and inserting a needle next to her spine. The injection would freeze nerves from the chest to the toes. While receiving this needle was frightening, it was worth it. Soon a wave of warmth began to flow down her body. In 2 minutes, all the pain was gone. What a relief, Melody smiled to herself. Now I can wait forever. Dr. Belmont was studying the monitoring tape again. He didn't like what he saw. He had performed regular dilation checks, and she had failed to progress past 5 centimeters in all this time. Her membranes had ruptured 20 hours ago. It looked like the baby's heartbeat was increasing and irregular. The child might be in distress, and he couldn't take that risk. "I'm sorry, Melody. I will have to prep you for a cesarean section now. We must deliver this baby." He sounded worried. "No, doctor, I don't want a cesarean," Melody gasped. She remembered seeing that video in their prenatal class. One of the prospective fathers had even fainted. She had so wanted to have a natural birth. "I'm sorry, dear, but I believe your baby is experiencing fetal distress, and we have no choice," Dr. Belmont stated. Just when Melody felt relief from the overlapping transitional contractions, she now felt impending fear at the coming C-section. The nurses were there to prep her for her surgery. She felt her belly painted with cold antiseptic solution. "Richard, I'm scared," she began to weep softly. "It's all right, hon. I'll be there with you." "But I don't want to film the delivery now. I hope you understand," Richard said. They had planned to videotape their first child's birth for a precious memory. But secretly, Richard wasn't looking forward to seeing his wife's surgery. It might be rather graphic. He decided to take only his 35mm camera. Melody had made a paper copy of her birth plan as a result of their prenatal training. In it, she had requested to be kept awake in the event of a cesarean section. Also, she had asked for her husband to be present in the delivery room. Now Melody was lying on the operating table instead of the birthing bed. She was covered with a dark green cloth. A screen was put in front of her face so that she could not observe the actual surgery. Richard stood back as he didn't want to watch the actual incision. Melody felt a heavy pressure on her uterus, but it didn't hurt. The surgeon's scalpel was slicing through her skin, then all her underlying tissues to the uterus itself. Now it made an opening to deliver the baby. Melody felt as though her body was being wrenched from side to side on the doctor's table as they tried to pry the body of her child from its tight place. Suddenly the head of the baby was visible. Richard gasped at what he saw. His baby, for the first time. A head of thick, wavy hair and a dark red face was all scrunched up. The child let out a wail. The doctor suctioned his nose and mouth to remove any mucus. That was even more reason for him to cry. They wrestled his body out. First the shoulders were out, and then the rest of the baby was lifted up by several pairs of gloved hands. "It's a boy!" the doctor exclaimed. Richard managed to get a great photo shot of all the doctor's hands holding his newborn son while he was still attached to the umbilical cord in Melody's body. Tears of joy were streaming down the new father's face. Melody could see the baby as he was lifted up on top of the edge of the screen in front of her face. A crying, wet little baby boy. My baby, she cried. "Can I hold him?" The cord was clamped, and the baby was separated from the placenta. Then the nurses whisked him off to a nearby table to weigh, measure, and wipe him off and wrap him in a warm blanket. The tiny bundle was presented to his anxious mother. "Oh, look at my baby," Melody exclaimed softly. She nestled the little bundle high on her chest next to her face. "He's so beautiful." Richard was standing over his wife and newborn son. He felt supreme joy, and a look of awe was on his face. The two of them weren't paying much attention as Melody was stitched up. She was numb to the pain. They just concentrated at looking with wonder in the face of their own little baby boy, Christian. Joseph and David were also in the hospital delivery room, even though they could not be seen by human eyes. I'm assigned to be Christian's guardian angel for his life, David, the champion angel, told Joseph proudly. He is the child of promise for this couple. His birth nearly did not take place. Yes, the demonic realm certainly seemed to know that Father had great plans for the woman Melody and her husband Richard. Lord Dark tried everything to stop them from going forward. He doesn't know the details, but I guess he sees something in her aura that indicates the Almighty is working a wonderful plan. Yes, Joseph agreed, but we both know that darkness always has to give way to light. Now are you going to say the blessing? I'd be honored. David sheltered wee Christian with his shimmery wings. Joseph stretched his like a giant white fan behind the parents. "Children are a gift from the Lord," he began. They could both hear the angels singing as Father's voice descended lovingly into the room.